Welcome to the Artist Talk at Art of Noise. This is Transatlantic Innermost Connections with Edmond Nassa and Khalid Thompson. Hello, Khalid.
Hello, how are you, brother?
Good, brother. I'm sorry. I feel like I spun too fast.
It's all good.
It's
I'll
all
roll
part.
with
It
it.
was
Yeah.
just because I was trying to roll right into the next one. Hey, Edmond, how you doing, brother? Right on, brother. Right on, right on. All right, so I'm just gonna read what the intro to you guys' show, what the basic synopsis of your show is, real quickly. It's transatlantic innermost connections evoke an ever-evolving relationship between post-colonial Africa and the diaspora. This exhibition explores the natural and nuanced connections of cultural expression, attempting to expand the meaning of heritage and identity into a more diverse context. Yeah, how deep? We're diving into the deep today, folks.
Very
At Art of
nuanced.
Noise. Thank you, Adrian, for allowing us to have this space and time. Nice shoes, Vicky. Okay, so my first question is, and we're gonna have fun. This is gonna be fun. So if you interject, if you have something you need to tell me or get off your chest or tell the people right now, you know what I'm saying? Let them know we got time.
All right,
Okay, we got a
cool,
few
cool,
minutes.
cool.
Okay,
Great, great.
All right. So the first question I have for both of you guys, and I'll start with Edmund first, and then I'll switch. I'll come to you. Khalid. So the first question is, what is your background and where are you from?
First of all, I want to thank Adrian, the owner of Art of News Gallery, for having us, including members of his team, cameraman, the moderator.
It's Buck, man.
I was born in Burkina Faso in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso. And growing up in the city of Ouagadougou, I was at my early age, I was influenced by the art scene.
Okay.
So it's a city with a lot of art,
Okay.
visual art through music.
Okay.
So I had a chance seeing painters, sculpture who making a bronze. We do a lot of bronze work
Okay.
back home. So it started from there.
Really? A lot of bronze work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. While seeing that in a lot of festivals in the cities,
Okay.
that they invite different artists from everywhere in the world.
Okay.
So I started from there, and then I fell in love with the art, and
Okay.
I requested my parents that I wanna get into the art.
Oh,
thing.
you were like, yo, you like, yeah. You just
Yes.
told your parents, you sat them down, like, yo.
Yes.
So this is what's gonna
Yes,
go down.
yes.
I'm about to get into this art
Yes.
game.
That's
Okay.
why I went to the art school
Okay.
in the city.
Ah.
So after studying art for 4 years in
Okay.
that school, I was lucky to get a scholarship, and then I went to Europe
Where were you in Europe?
in France,
France. Okay.
on the southeast of France, and between the border of Italy, Switzerland, and France. It's a city called Chambéry,
Yeah.
and it's
Okay.
that area.
I know where it's at, folks. If you looked at me at the camera, you thought he didn't know what he was talking about. I know what this young man's talking about. I just want to say that because I was like, I felt for a second you looked at me like you don't know what that's at, dog. I have heard of it. I have heard of it. It's dope. Okay, so that's a dope start. So then from France, then migrated here.
From France, I relocated myself to the U.S. in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah, I landed in New York City, and I lived in New York for a year and a half, and then I moved out to D.C.
Oh wow.
Yes,
So you travel, bro.
I do love traveling.
You love travel. You've seen
Yes.
the world. You've seen a good part. You've seen a good portion of the world.
I saw it.
Yeah, you said
So,
yeah, right
yes.
on. Khalid, also your background and where you're from.
Yeah, definitely. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, born and raised. I have been in D.C. for the past 13 years. I just moved back to the Richmond area in May.
Okay.
So my upbringing is a lot different in terms of how I came up. I was raised in Richmond, Virginia for the first 6 years of my life in a normal family context. And after that, things changed
Okay.
within my family. And it ended up my brother and sister and myself growing up under a single mother from the age of 7. And we moved to the western part of the city, which they call the West End in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
And, I came up kind of like a latchkey kid,
Right.
working class family, that kind of scenario. Before that, My father had moved on in a different direction. I came up from kind of like a middle class background, so I was kind of cultured, and we traveled.
Right.
I was exposed to the arts and music at an early age. So from then on, once we moved to the West End, it was kind of for me a journey about discovering myself, having my family dismantled at such a young age. Kind of like propelled me to kind of find purpose and meaning, you know, in life. So it's kind of been a soul searching journey for me. But I tapped into the arts at a fairly young age, but it didn't become a passion or a focus until about my early 20s. So what happened is like I grew up, latchkey, went to high school, dealt with kind of the interesting dynamics of being in a no-father family situation.
Right.
And I don't want to make it sound like cliche. It's just that was the circumstance, and I grew up around a lot of young brothers and sisters.
So this isn't like Boys in the Hood. This is
No. That was the interesting thing about it, right? No, because it's like we grew up pretty much in a working class neighborhood,
Right,
so I
right,
never
right.
experienced like the really the struggles of that urban situation, of that level of it. But there obviously were struggles that we worked through. But for me, I'll just kind of speed forward. I grew up, I played sports, I kind of lived a normal life, and then about the age of like 14, 15, I was exposed to Tribe Called Quest. And that was kind of like my first experience of like creativity and black creativity outside of the normal context of what was popular and mainstream.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry?
No, I just said I'm sorry because I looked away. But
Oh, okay, cool. No problem.
we
No
got things
problem.
going on around us.
Yeah, no problem.
But continue. So you said, all right. So I left my wallet in El Segundo. Was your
Yeah, that was like my initial
Yeah,
like
'cause that-
introduction into like
dick-a-doo,
yeah.
that shit, I remember that shit being like, dick-a-doo.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah. So really, I mean, honestly, I don't want to get too far off base this early in the conversation, but that point in hip hop was like it was like this twist in hip hop where if you were a little bit more artsy, you felt more comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I was rolling like BDP and all that, but it was like I felt that. I was like, but when that joint dropped, it's like
It kind of just
I was like, oh man, I fit now, man. I feel comfortable.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, but go
No,
on.
absolutely. But to tie into that Tribe Called Quest effect, I grew up listening to a lot of jazz. My parents played a lot of jazz music. There was art in the house.
Right.
So in my immediate environment, even though some of my familial circumstances were different, there was that constant flow of like multicultural expression and like me getting that information at a young age. And I think it had a big effect on me later in life. But
Right.
Tribe Called Quest really did it for me in terms of like being the contemporary scene and
Yeah.
finding like people that were like-minded, that were
Like-minded,
thinking
yeah.
outside of the box.
Yep.
So yeah, left my wallet in El Segundo. But it wasn't until probably like my junior year in high school, I'd taken a creative writing course and fell in love with poetry. And that was kind of like my first inklings that like, yo, like being creative and doing this is dope. This is kind of like my path. So I fell in love with writing, and I experimented with that into like my early college years. Ended up dropping out of college, but I came back to Richmond. I went to Hampton for a hot minute. Came back to Richmond.
Shout out to
HU.
Hey, the real HU.
So-
Just wanted to do that for no reason.
Well, right, that's
no reason.
up-
Just
that's
cause
up
some
for-
drama later.
That's-
This is not the real HU.
Yeah, that's up for debate. But I hadn't really tapped
Shout out to Hillman,
to Hillman.
the real Hillman.
Yeah, for real. But so anyway, went there for a stint, came back to Richmond, and there's this district in Richmond called the Fan, and that's kind of like where you have like just big, huge, like solidarity amalgamation of like different people in the cultural arts movement and stuff. So I got into the scene there and started getting into hip hop and rhyming a lot and stuff. But I felt like at the time, like my ideas and perspectives were really abstract.
Okay.
I was more like aligned with artists like Jimi Hendrix, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, people that were really expanding the expression and taking it out to the fringes. Acts like, Bad Brains, you know what I'm saying?
Shout out to
Fishbone,
Bad Brains.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, definitely DC Love, so shout out to HR and Bad Brains. But like seeing those kind of like black expressions really like helped me understand that I can be as free as I want to
Right.
be. And so I went through the whole phase of music, wanted to become a musician and all that. Then around about 2005, I moved to Washington, D.C. With my ex-wife at the time, who was going to school at Howard. And I became a bike messenger, which I did for 13 years. And I ran into this artist one day on the street by the name of Sharif Mamadou. He's a local artist here in the area. Yeah, the guy on the street painting all the time, right? So I just ran into him, and I saw him painting on the street one day, and I was just like blown away by his expression, his immediacy, and his spontaneity, and his vitality with the work. And we just became fast friends. And he like really encouraged like me to like draw again, because that was a childhood love I had.
Yeah.
I drew a lot, and I I had been introduced to art. So it got me back into drawing, and the next thing you know, after about a year of just doing representational work, I decided to explore paint as a medium, and it just kind of took off from there. I just literally found my passion, my means of expression, and I focused more on abstraction, and here we are today, about 12, 13 years later.
And I'm gonna come back to you because this is like, because now my next question, Edmond,
Yes.
is basically how did you get here? Like, and this is a very the way I'm asking this is a very interesting way. What I'm really asking is like, how'd you get here right now? Like, and so within the last year you've been creating work, and then all of a sudden you meet up with Adrian from Art and Noize. So it's like, how did you get here? How did the pieces? And when I say how did you get here, it's also how did you know that these pieces? Not that you know that the pieces would fit, but that you felt these are the pieces that fit here, that you fit, in the gallery, and that you fit here right now. You know, like how did you get here, bro?
Okay. First of all, how do I get here? Let's start off with the Khalid.
Yeah. Okay.
The first time I came to this place was a Khalid opening.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
The last show last year.
Yes.
Yeah, the solo show.
Right.
That's the true Khalid I found this place.
Okay.
And then I met Adrian.
Okay.
And then later on, Khalid. Before we get to this, Khalid been approaching me about having dual show.
Right.
And then finally he came to me and told me, okay, Adrian plays. So would you like to have a dual show there? So I said yes, and then he talked to Adrian, and the idea we came with the team of the show.
Right.
But based on the team, he gave me an idea how to curate some of my work that can work. Being here, I saw the space.
Okay.
Kind of gave me an idea how to pick and choose some of my
Right.
hanging walls and some of the standing pieces.
Okay.
So basically, that's why I didn't do randomly. It's something I prepare.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're trying
yes,
to get to.
and
like, because the thought process is there.
Exactly,
And
and
we keep going. But yeah, go ahead, man.
and also I know Khalid work.
Okay.
I know how his work looks like.
Right.
And I kind of think about it. I say, okay, I know this piece and this piece and this piece can blend to his work.
Right. So you figuring out how you could play them off of each other.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And so now I'm gonna switch back to Khalid real quick, and then we'll come back to you because I really got some real questions about. So my question to you also is, how did you get here? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very odd the way I'm asking the question, but I just want to see how you got how you fit into this space, how you know what I'm saying? Like you've shown in the space before, but this time showing in the space. Like, how did you get here, man? Like, you know what I'm saying? The thought process to get you into this space.
Yeah, for sure. I want to echo Edmond's sentiments and first give my love and appreciation. First of all, to Edmond for doing the show with me. You know, I really appreciate this, brother. Thank you so much. Shout outs to Buck, who I think is an incredible artist. You know,
thank you,
show
man.
love for him.
Thank you.
Shout outs to Adrian of Art and Noize. We've known each other for years, actually, and it's been great to work with him throughout the years. And shout out to my man Nassa Khalid for coming through and showing love. He's a fantastic artist here in the area as well. So shout out to you, big brother. But I got here, I met Adrian some years back at a little event, artist event. I think it was out in Northern Virginia or something. But I think it was through somebody you know. And we just always, throughout the years, we were interested in jazz and we were interested in the culture. And so we would run into different events and stuff like that. And we just kind of always stayed in touch loosely through like social media, but it was always like we knew we were plugged into something. I ran into Edmond back, I think it was 2017. You did that exhibition at the Embassy of Ivory Coast?
Yes.
Okay, and he was a part of a group exhibition there. And I was actually there to see Sharif's work and ran into Edmond's work and was immediately struck by the uniqueness of his sculpture and just always held it in high regard. And he came to my shows and performances throughout the years, something I did in Brightwood and then something I did here at Art and Noize. And it just seemed like, for me, I had this thought about creating this show around showing kind of like this unconscious connection or tie between art and expression of the diaspora and art of the culture of Africa. And it wasn't like it wasn't like I was trying to hold a banner up or anything. It was just trying to show a natural expression that you could kind of see a relationship in, you know? And if you put the two artists in the room from these cultures, could something work? Could it come together, and could you see a cohesiveness in the work, an energetic cohesiveness that may speak or evoke to a much broader or deeper connection between, what had happened prior to colonialism and the transatlantic experience and what's happened during and after that. And see, especially through that lapse of time, if there's still a connection of expression that could be, I guess you could see as a genuine relationship or a genuine echo. So I wanted to do that, and I looked at his work, and I thought about my work and how it would complement it, and we talked about it and went over it. But most of the process was really natural.
Right.
It felt right. We didn't sit down and hammer out a bunch of ideas. We just trusted that we could relate with the work. So when he showed me the work he did for the show and he saw my work, it seemed like it would be a good fit in the space. But then when we finally put it up, it takes on a whole new experience. And
Yeah.
one thing that I think has been highlighted about the show a lot is the relationship, the genuine synergy of the work.
Right.
So that I wanted to make that idea manifest, and I feel like we captured it.
Yeah, and I feel like it does. I feel like, and I'm sitting here just looking at the one of Edmond's sculptures right in front of us. It's kind of right in front of us, folks. I don't know if you guys really can't see it as well as we can. You'll get to see if they throw in some B-roll or whatever. But if me looking at this piece and then looking at your piece on the wall with the green, and it looks like they're part of the same. They really look like they, you know what I'm saying? They're part of the same thing. There's a definite connection there. It looks like they're kind of just like, this is a 3D manifestation. This is a more physical, a different kind of physical manifestation of the same thing. And that's really important. So that's what we're seeing. And so now, but I still got to come back to that. We're going to come back to that because now I want to know, because I also really want to know about process, and we talked about a little bit about your process last night, and I talked to you a little bit more last night about it. Yeah. But I want to talk to you. I want them to know what your process is, because I was like sitting there like Edmond's looking at me like I'm crazy, and I'm staring around at the side of it like, oh, I see how you just did this thing on the side, and this is like, and he's like, there's wire. I'm like, yes, I saw the wire. But can you explain a little bit more about your process of excuse me, of creating the pieces that you created for the show?
My process starts by the material first. I gather the materials, and then while looking the materials, sometimes I get direct communication. It kind of guides me, gives me ideas of how putting things together. By collecting them and I lay on the ground, by looking at them, I kind of sense, I kind of see a direct communication, like I said earlier. And then from there, I start building up. Start constructing them together, putting things together, and then adding some of the materials just to spice a little bit.
Okay.
Or kind of express. Kind of express my emotions.
Right.
Can be a culture shock, or can be like meeting a friend or a new person or visiting new places. So basically my process started from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but you're also, because you're doing things like, okay, so now we got the point where you got the materials down and you've had a connection between you and that piece of wood or that piece of paper and that piece of wire. You're like, oh, y'all going to hang out together, right? So you said this part, right? This is going, I'm interpreting what's going in your head. I don't know what's going on. You're probably a little crazier than I think, man. So then what happens is like you're also cutting into the wood with, I'm trying to figure out what materials you're using to cut into not materials, but tools you're using to cut into like the piece behind me, man. And I don't really want to turn around because that's kind of bad camera etiquette or something. But it's just like what you're doing, the way you're not only molding, but you're sculpting, and you're cutting is like, it's beautiful. So I'm just trying to figure out how do you, I want to know more about the process. Like, I want to know the process, man, because I want to do this stuff. I don't want to do this stuff, folks, but I would try. I would try, but I would probably not.
Okay. If I understand what you're asking for, you're asking about the texture.
Yeah. Like, how are you creating that? And not just that one texture, but like, kind of tools are you using to do this?
Okay, I'm using a tool called a weir. People who work with wood know that tool is a circle.
Okay.
It looks like a chainsaw.
Okay.
but it's a round.
Oh,
So I use on a drummer. I
wow.
mount it on a drummer,
Okay.
and that instrument allows me to cut the wood.
Okay.
And cool thing about that tools, I'm kind of free. I can let my hands, uh, I can let my hands kind of be free
Right.
by just cutting it with I'm not trying to be precise.
Right,
But
right,
I'm
right,
just
right.
want to hurt the wood. Basically,
Okay.
if you see the texture of this type of series of work, I call them I'm hurting the wood.
Ah,
Yeah, I'm hurting the wood. Doesn't mean in a bad way, but
me sound pretty bad to me, dog.
yeah,
But I'm
but
not the wood, so what do I know?
I'm hurting the wood.
Right.
By hurting the wood, it's a way of transferring some of the pain
Right. Yeah.
of some of, if I can call a pain, I will use a pain for. I'm transferring those pain, those
So you're
emotion to
so
to
maybe you're
wood.
I mean, would it be safe to say that you're transferring trauma?
Trauma, if I
You're
can use
maybe
that.
some
Yeah,
sort of trauma that maybe you felt somewhere in
yeah,
your life. You're
fellas, yeah,
transferring that to the wood,
to the wood.
and then the
Yes,
wood is telling the story of your
yes,
trauma. Oh, that's
yes,
hard, dog. That's
yes.
fucking ridiculous. Oh, that's hard. So I got to ask you now the same thing. And and again, we talked about your process also, but it's like a little bit more in depth because because when I like walked up on your pieces, I was able to see like there's records in the background and images from magazines and photos and text, and I was just seeing how like, and then if I looked at one of your larger pieces, I actually saw like actual like I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of material it is, but there's cloth and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. So I mean, so what's your process when you're sitting down, when you sit down with the canvas because you're sitting with the canvas for these pieces, like take me through what your process is, how you step into this.
It's it's a natural kind of organic evolution in terms of like when I look at the blank canvas, like it's literally like then I start to have what I'll say for lack of maybe a better word, like a spiritual communication with that space. I allow the intuition to take over
Okay.
and give me visions, like literal visions of what colors to use and how to apply the language. So sometimes it's not like I go in with the preconceived notions on what I'm going to do.
Okay.
It's like it's literally coming in the moment. Sometimes, of course, you stand back, you reflect on the work,
Right.
and you look, and then it gives you more information. But it's kind of like I like to say I'm kind of letting the painting make itself, just the vessel for the work. But then there comes the fact of, well, what experiences, what am I bringing into the work? Like, what is
Right.
informing that? There's got to be some information about that. And I think for me, the reason I created this show, and it's kind of a nod to my overall feeling about the work, because even though it is abstract and it deals with like the real existential nature of being human and kind of like being connected to everything.
Right.
I'm also coming from my own cultural and societal experiences.
Right.
Like they're inevitable, right? So that's why I think when I talk about transatlantic innermost connections, I'm talking more about like the unconscious connections that are there. I'm not
Right.
trying to, it's not logical in process because I'm not really being logical with the work, you know? I'm allowing influences such as jazz music and certain types of jazz music, like we talked about.
Right.
Certain cultural influences that I'm trying to connect with because, and speaking to the images that you'll see in a lot of my work, I was a bike courier here in D.C., so I went to a lot of embassies because I deal with the embassies and passports and
Right.
stuff. So I went to a lot of African embassies, and I would get their magazines, and then I would cut out images, and then I would
Okay.
instruct those images. And the reason why I did that was because being people of the diaspora, we don't have that direct historical chronological link to, let's say, Africa in
Right.
that sense. So underneath the surface of our experience is a much richer and deeper connection that we aren't always consciously aware of. But if you look beneath the surface, if you engage with the work, and if you try to see it, then you see that those aspects are there. And I mean, that's intentional in a sense because
Right.
the information I'm exposed
So
to.
and I'm this is kind of rebuttal, it's kind of
Yeah.
this is what I've been thinking about, and I take a lot of time thinking about some of these things. So you're, and I
Kind of
hesitate to
mining the
say-
subconscious.
You're mining your subconscious.
Yeah.
At any point, do you feel like the narrative you're creating a narrative in response to a missing narrative? or narrative because
It's more like I'm being suggestive.
right, and I
You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be literal in the sense of like that I'm
I got
trying
you.
to say right, right.
That's not
It's
what I'm asking. That's not
right.
what I'm asking.
Okay.
I don't mean to imply that I'm asking that. What I want to understand is because you're saying that you've gone to these embassies, you've seen these other images, you've pulled these images, now you're reflecting them back. So it's like you are creating a narrative, but it's like in response to. It is in response to something that may or may not be there, but also is there because there's this kind of like we all have this cultural connection.
This work was created independent of the intention. So
Right.
it was brought together because, until you are in the space and you see the work working together, that's when you know the connection is genuine. Because like Edwin had already made this work, I had already made this work. And we kind of came up with a curatorial way of just like putting it together. But it wasn't like we put a lot of thought and intention behind it. It just seemed to have a natural working.
And had a natural flow to
Natural
it.
working and a
Right.
natural connection.
And it fits together. It literally like it feels like the pieces belong together, right?
And I'll be honest, just to elaborate a little bit if
Yeah.
I can, in terms of being of the diaspora, because I think there's certain views that we have
Yeah.
of what, this concept called Africa, and what that means to us. And I'm not trying to say I'm having a romantic gaze so much,
Right.
where I'm like, oh, I'm trying to look back to the motherland.
Right.
It's more like I'm just trying to say, how do things connect?
Right.
And that's it.
And I think that- honestly-
kind of like that's it. You know
But
what I'm
that's something that that's always something that I want to know. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And sometimes I don't want to be too direct because
Because then it starts to narrow what you're saying.
Yeah, and
a
also
little
if you
bit.
know me, if y'all know me, literally, they call me Buck for a reason. I will say some
'Cause
shit
you gonna
that
bump the
somebody be like,
standard.
this nigga, he just said some wild shit to me about me not being from Africa.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Oh, I'm from Africa. This is-
Right,
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
Right,
Like, and
sure.
it's also because I have questions, and I question a lot of this, and I think we have to pose these questions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
for sure.
like you just want to understand why people are expressing the way they're expressing, and
It's kind of like I'm questioning with the work. Are the
Right.
connections, or with this show, I'll say, are the connections there? Because obviously the link is it's about the whole totalitarian, total experience. I'm sorry. of
Right.
It's really a diasporic expression of what I've experienced as a black man here.
right.
And it's evident in that. And with some of that within our history comes this kind of desire to tie ourselves to a place that we feel is more indigenous. You know what I'm saying? In terms of just like, this is one aspect of a story that has a much
Right.
larger narrative.
Much larger story, but you're telling your story.
And I'm kind of just saying, look, just
You're
look at
asking your questions.
look at the hints and the accents of
Right.
what might be related. Don't so much try to tie it all together or make it
Right.
this finite. Well, it's all African or it's all African American.
Right.
No, it's diaspora, but
It's-
maybe these hints and suggestions can draw you back to a cohesive cultural,
Right.
tie or
Well,
relationship.
and
You know what I'm
also,
saying? Explore that.
and also, it shows the connection that you and Edmond may have. You know what I'm saying?
Just
It's
from an
just
artistic
from
standpoint, a
artistic
stylistic
standpoint, just
standpoint,
being, like,
right.
just on a certain level.
Yes,
you
I'm
guys
kind of
are-
trying to touch on all that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, and so what I'm gonna redirect back to Edmond, and I'm gonna end up skipping around in my questions. So I hope y'all didn't memorize the questions that I sent y'all.
No.
Okay, you cool with it? So, and I'm gonna skip because we kind of moved a little bit further ahead. But the question is, what elements do you believe are undefined that you hope people resonate with? So I'm gonna ask you this because he's already alluded to it, talked about it somewhat. But what elements that that the average person doesn't see that it's that one thing. It's like, man, I hope they see this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope they get. I know you mentioned trauma or transferring trauma to tell a story by hurting this poor wood that didn't do nothing wrong. But I mean, what else do you want them to resonate when they leave? What kind of what do you want them to take away?
I will say, and that question I will refer to some of my materials I'm using
Mm-hmm.
in my pieces. I don't know if you look some of my pieces, you can see I play around with the cork, nails, and the wire that I use. I kind of wrap it up through the wood. I call them suspension wires, suspended wires on some of the pieces. And like the piece face to you, you can see that I play with the cork and nails and the rope. So, and I use them to refer some of goes back to my culture.
Okay.
So my tribe, if you, I don't know if you know about our tribes, you can see that before the white man went to the continent and tried to teach them about Christianity,
Right.
and then kind of make them, okay, you gotta destroy all your gods.
Right.
You
Right.
believe the Christian
Right.
things. So some of my pieces refer to it as kind of expressing
Okay.
from the past how before they come and show us the Christianity, we got to believe we have to become a Christian. We
Right.
had or
Right. So they replace. So they're replacing religion.
yes,
Replacing your religion with their religion,
yes,
their faith,
yes,
or their
yep,
way of.
exactly.
Yeah. So, but and so what you're so what I'm taking from what you're saying is basically like you're also speaking to the past. You want people to be able to take away some of that
Yeah,
past or some of that
yeah.
before this there was this.
It was this
Right.
before you said, oh, okay, we got to believe this. We already believe something, and
Right.
that was all God things.
Right.
And if you come, you tell us, okay, those are not good because like related to Saturn or stuff like
Right,
that,
right,
which is
right.
not true. I don't
Right.
believe
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So we knew God before, so you can
Right.
come and kind of use the Christianity stuff, which
Right.
I'm not against you. That's why my name is
He's
Edmond.
totally against Christianity, folks. No,
No, but
I'm
the
joking, man.
reason
It's all good.
I went back is based on the question,
Right.
and that's one of the things I wish when people look at some of my work, not all the pieces,
Right.
but some of my work,
But this
they can capture that.
right, this piece
Yeah.
in particular, I think
Yes.
the piece behind me kind of speaks to that
Yes,
also.
the one beyond the
Yeah.
same thing,
Yeah.
you know, that which it has like the continent shape.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, it
Yes.
was, you
Yeah.
know, it's very like it's done very like it's elegant almost the way you incorporate a shape, but it's also like we're not just gonna make it look just like Africa. We don't have to just do that. It's kind of
Yes.
like
Yes.
yeah, I like that vibe off of it.
Yes.
I'm gonna skip to I don't know if I'm supposed to ask you that question.
Go for it.
Because I feel like you pretty much were talking about, you know, the basically. I'll ask it again though.
Sure.
What elements do you believe are undefined that you hope people resonate with?
I think the immediate thing I want people to resonate with is the color work. You know, in terms of like, you know, I'm really inspired by certain musicians and visual artists who use, because to me, like colors has a relationship to sound in terms of like how it captures your attention.
Right.
And like what work that always inspired me was like artists who, you know, use color in a very effective way. So kind of just like the dance and the motion and the energy of the color. If anything, I want people to experience the work first, just in terms of color and placement of color. So, you know, I would say, you know, color is relatively like an undefined thing, especially as an abstract artist, you know. It's more about how am I touching you with the color. And then, you know, going back to what you were saying about some of the images and how I've inlaid things in there, that more is for those that want to investigate other aspects that might be related to the work. You
Okay.
know? So, like, if you want to maybe go deeper, you know,
Right.
depending on the nature of the work. Because I have some compositions where I don't have any direct referential images. Like, you know, some
Right.
paintings are just purely, you know, of design, you know, for design elements. And I think for me, I'm just trying to pass on what I feel like is like a vitality, a spiritual energy that might be a theme that is expressed in our culture or from our culture, you know, and kind of allowing this place, the canvas, to be the place where I can express that as freely as possible and transmit that energy.
Okay.
You know, it comes from that lens, but there's a universality to it, you know, to the soul, to
Right.
the energy, to the fire that anybody can relate to.
Right.
So, you know, although I might, you know, use a lot of connections, you know, to, or make, you know, mention to African and diasporic connections, really the work is about expressing a spiritual, humanitarian energy and a flow of possibility and positivity through color and the power of the color. And if anything, it might even, you know, broaden its context and go into more elements that might be related to music in terms of like, you know, the place where I place color, like I kind of think the way I place color and the way I move it has a polyrhythmic feel to it.
Okay.
You know, like that of like the jazz that I engage with.
Ah,
that I
okay.
listen
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and like if you look at a lot of my compositions, it comes from that. It also, we were talking about psychedelia
Yeah.
and experiences that I've had with certain psychedelic experiences and how, you know, I feel like when I'm having those experiences, I'm looking at maybe more subtle forms of nature.
Right.
Like molecular, things that have an organization that is beyond our concept, but it's like
There,
kinda
yeah,
like
it's-
omniscience.
Right.
Like I'm kind of trying to tap into that omniscience of life.
Right.
That's
That
where I-
very like it's very base, but it's very, but understand that base is structured, and that structure.
You know what I'm saying? There's a
has
structure to
structures
there and
beyond
building
those
on-
structures.
Right, right. Because you know how I do live paintings, right?
Drugs, man. Drugs, folks. Drugs.
Yeah.
Drugs.
Well, natural, you know
Natural-
what I'm saying? Healing,
natural, yes.
remedies, you know
Yes,
what I'm saying?
nothing.
But yeah, and that's part of the whole live painting philosophy, which I've done here
Right.
with Adrian at Art of Noize. I think tapping into that and working with musicians to try to just kind of, you know, build a relationship, but using color.
Right. So you're not. So when you say live painting, you're not talking about just painting something pre-organized. You're talking about.
Or literally like embodying the spontaneity.
Right.
of the
You're
moment.
actually trying to work almost like
Create a
as-
composition off the top.
Right.
You know,
You're
it's not so
you're-
much.
You're literally being an artist while being an artist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like in the
Yeah,
moment
yeah.
and kind of trying to create a visual component
Yeah.
to a more, you know, audible experience. So trying to connect that. And I think that's why you see records in the work. It's not so much,
Right.
you know, it's just more like giving homage to how music affects me, but then nature overall, just life in general, you know,
Right.
also does. But I say the color work, the energy and the movement of the work, I want people to get that from it more than anything.
You know what's interesting? I mean, this is kind of, I don't know if this is, the conversation is kind of, the way the conversation has worked so far, like the questions I had organized to ask a certain way have actually kind of been answered. So it's kind of a weird space to be in because of the way we're kind of diving in and out. I know you cool, you laid back on them, you know what I'm saying? But it's like you're filling in all these blanks and I'm like, damn it, he just filled that in. He just talked, yeah, it's just literally, we're getting closer to the end here. I did want to ask if you had any influences. This is Women's History Month. If there were any women that you thought, influence what you're doing here. I mean, and for me, I don't think it has to be that you have to give me like some famous woman's name. It could be like your mama, for all I know. But are there women that have influenced the work that you're doing here?
Oh, me personally, not, but I wish. I wish I had a chance of seeing a woman in the art scene early.
Right.
But it's not. But I hope, I'm still young and you never know. So I might run to
Hey, that's how.
a female artist that I might fell in love or might influenced by their work. Which I would love to, to get that opportunity someday.
Man, Edmond, you the most honest dude I know. He was like, nah, I just did this. But it's like, but you got to respect that. That's us being very, if we can be very candid and you can be very, it helps people understand you and where you're coming from. So what about you as far as influence?
Oh, well, yeah, my mother, when it's funny because she always talks about this story. She joined a dance group, Easy Bumutu, which was an African dance group in Richmond, Virginia. And, throughout her period there, she had gotten pregnant with me. And for a long period while she was pregnant, had been working and dancing and practicing with me there. So I think that kind of became my first connection to like
Okay.
polyrhythmic essence of like, and maybe, that's why
Yeah,
it's the way it is, right?
Yeah, that goes with the work.
Yeah,
it goes
absolutely.
with
So
what you're talking about.
she played a big influence. She's also a cook and loves to cook. So the creativity, her love for jazz music, it played a central role. But in terms of artists, there, definitely Alma Thomas, who lived in D.C. most of her life, just in terms of color, has been influential. And then a sculptor who Edmond, I would love to introduce you to as far as the work, Shakai Booker, who actually had shown work at the National Women's Museum for the Arts off of New York Avenue. She did an exhibition some years back, but her work is very awesome and inspirational, and just her overall style too, like her clothing style. Like she says that she sculpts herself. She gets ready for work, and so in terms of just like her play with color and her play with more fringe elements, definitely inspirational. So yeah, definitely Octavia Butler. You know, some Alice Coltrane
Octavia
for sure.
Butler.
Alice Coltrane,
Alice Coltrane.
for sure.
Yeah, I think
without question.
I
That's had a
really,
major
I really have to
impact.
give a shout out to Alice Coltrane because I had to go back and like,
Yeah.
you know, because you're listening to your music and you got your playlist going or whatever, and then I use like one of the like streaming services, right? So they're going through and they're playing like Art Blakey and all these stuff. Just listening to all this stuff, and then all of a sudden this Alice Coltrane comes on. I'm like, oh, that's dope.
It's
But I'm like, who is that? Then I go look at it, I'm like, oh, this is Alice.
Yeah,
And you're like,
yeah,
oh, this joint just took me through. I think one of her songs is like 9 or 10 minutes. I'm like, this just took me through the last 9 minutes, and I had no clue, but it helped me get so much of my, just pushed me through my work and put me in a space. I think it is important to recognize women in their work. Here at Art of Noize, I think one of our next shows is probably going to be a part of Women's History Month.
I think it would be excellent. I also want to
Just gonna throw that out there. I just put Adrian in a very uncomfortable position.
Right.
Now he's got to book a woman artist. I would say female artist, but you can't say female. No
Yeah,
more.
I do want to give a shout out to, however, my partner Lucretia. She was a former sculpture major at VCU back in the '90s, and in terms of just influencing my work and helping to, expand my ideas on art, she's played a major role in that for sure. Just hanging out and being a really cool friend and partner, and has introduced me and exposed me to a lot of ways of looking at art and different perspectives. So her as well too, and yeah, definitely big up to Women's History year round.
Right on. I mean, I think that's going to kind of close us out. It's interesting because I had my questions, man. I was like, I'm going to get them with
Thank
these
you, Buck,
questions.
for doing this, man. Shout
No,
out to you.
man,
It's
I
been
was
great.
going to get y'all with my nuanced questions about nuances. I had all kind of nuanced questions. I think they all basically asking the same question, though, as well. Just really, like, looking at it in this state, this mind state, I'm like, oh, these are all the same question. But I'd like to thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you, Buck.
Edmond, Khalid,
Yes,
thank
brother.
you.
Thank you, man.
Adrian. Thank you, everybody. Good night and God bless.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Edmond, for doing this, brother, and thank you, Adrian.
Likewise.
Yes, thank you,
Adrian,
brother.
for having
Beautiful
us.
show. Come check it out and support Buck, support all the artists.
So real quickly, can we get you guys? Can you get where we can find you online, Edmond?
You can follow me on IG, Juma, which is R as in Robert, Z as in Zoo, U as in umbrella, U as in umbrella, M as in Mary, A as in Apple, Juma.
And then you, sir?
Yeah, IG handle Khalid Thompson, KHALID _ Thompson, THOMPSON. Also website KhalidThompson.com.
And there you have it, folks. You can find me at mbilishaka _. Holla back.